Good evening, and I declare the agenda briefing meeting open at 6 p.m. Good evening, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting today is being held on Whadjuk Noongar Budja, and I would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to elders past, present and future. I thank all past and present members of the community that have supported the city to better understand and value Noongar culture within the city of Wanneroo. I invite you to bow your head in prayer. Lord, we thank you for blessing our city, our community and our council. Guide us all in our decision-making to act fairly, without fear or favour, and with compassion, integrity, wisdom and honesty. May we show true leadership, be inclusive of all and guide all of the city's people and many families to a prosperous future that all may share. We ask this in your name. Please note that the audio-visual proceedings of tonight's meeting will be live broadcast online with the exception of matters discussed behind closed doors. The broadcast of the proceedings of the meeting can be accessed live and on demand through the City of Wanneroo YouTube channel. Attendances, item 1, we have no electronic attendance requested. Item 2, apologies and leave of absence. We have apology from Councillor Seif and Councillor Smith. Item 3, deputations. Deputations must relate to a report on the current briefing agenda. A deputation is not to exceed 3 speakers in number and only those speakers may address council members. Speakers of a deputation will collectively have a maximum of up to 10 minutes, dependent on the number of deputations received, to address the council members, unless an extension of time is granted. A deputation is to be in the form of a statement and no debate or discussion on the matter is to occur. Questions from council members relating to the subject matter should be reserved until the administration has presented on the relevant report during the meeting. However, a point of clarification by a council member on a specific statement may be permitted. Public questions are not heard at agenda briefing meeting and will be heard at an ordinary council meeting. I'm pleased to advise that the following deputations have been confirmed. We have 2, and first of all I'll go with speakers John Burgess from Burgess Design and Group and Chris Takala from Satterley. It's about item 4.4, consideration of Precinct 3 Elliott Road Local Structure Plan following advertising. If you'd like to come and take the podium and give us your name, the suburb you live in, and press the button in front of you so the light comes on red, and proceed with your deputation. Thank you.
There we go. Thank you and good evening, Madam Mayor and councillors. My name is John Burgess from Burgess Design Group and I'm here with Chris Talaka from Satterley's proponents for the Precinct 3 Local Structure Plan for Elliott Road. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight in relation to item 4.4. The purpose of our deputation is to give our thanks to the City's planning team for their collaboration throughout both the preparation and the assessment of the local structure plan. It's been a huge suite of work and we thank them for their comprehensive report and recommendations, which we speak in support of. As you know, planning across East Wanneroo is very complex, involving many stakeholders, and there are still a number of broader planning elements to be finalised, including the transport corridor, as the city planners have outlined in their report. As such, we agree with their recommendation for these discussions to continue during the Department of Planning's assessment of the local structure plan, thus facilitating Council's endorsement of our local structure plan this month. Our thanks again to the City's planners for their report and recommendation. We would now be grateful for Council support for our proposed structure plan for Precinct 3 Elliott Road. Chris Talaka is here with me to assist answering any questions that that councillors may have of either me as a planner or Chris as the proponent. Thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors.
Thank you. I think that's everything. I don't think we've got any questions to the item, but thank you. Yes, our staff have done an amazing job with their work on East Wanneroo, and they continue to do their amazing job and going from strength to strength. Thank you for your deputation. We now go to the second deputation on item 4.9, dogs on lead in nature reserves and response to PTO 10725 Scenic Park. Speaker Natalie Herridge.
Hey team. Elephant in the room, this is a little bit weird. Just putting it out there. For everybody who doesn't know, I'm Nat Herridge. I'm now from Lansdale, but was before South West Ward councillor. And I've been trying to decide whether I was actually going to come today. It's been a difficult decision to make, but I'm here because I believe in seeing things through. Unfortunately, in reading the report that's been presented for item 4.9, it's left me with disappointment, frustration, and now with more questions as opposed to bringing closure for our community. I am going to read this because I won't be able to get through it ad hoc. This report has presented new information as opposed to clarity, has errors referring to the number of reserves and the motion's author, reference to parks, which is outside the scope of the item, not given full context to the councillor discussion addition to the report, and process seems to be overlooked with the inclusion of a petition outside of consultation and subsequently also added to the recommendation. Has due process and good governance been forgotten? Never has the city before presented Facebook comments as evidence for a report, so why now? The petition, which at the time was accepted outside of the city's policy terms, is also now included within this report, with no due process, it seems to be as a presented report to council on its own. Is this another oversight? It's been almost 2 years since I presented this motion to council for consideration of dogs on leads for the city's 28 nature reserves. It was on the back of the community outcry at the time and wildlife carers and volunteers who saw the impacts of this every day. As indicated at the time, it was going to be a 6 to 7 month process, but it's unfortunately turned into a circus of delays. The last in September for now has gone without full explanation. The community should not be expected to wait for over a year for a consultation to be considered by council and decision made. Now, as a resident of the city, I no longer have the role to ensure that the city completes its tasks within due process, good governance, and on behalf of our community. This lies with you all around this table. However, I will leave you with one thing. The community needs a decision, which it should have had months ago. In due time, I feel, as well as you all know, there will be a further discussion around this table asking us to consider dogs on all leads, on all parks, with the change in society that's been coming. This is not what's being asked of us today. This is a decision in favour of protecting the city's 28 nature reserves, the wildlife within and the flora that protects and provides heat relief, amenity and wildlife a home. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, former councillor Herridge. You have a question of clarification?
I do. Sorry to make you come back, Ms Herridge. I have a question of clarification just on something that you said, that the matter itself was deferred from July to September and then ultimately to now the November council meeting without explanation. Can I just ask you, so no explanation, nothing was ever provided to explain why this matter was deferred more than 4 months beyond a council election?
Ms Herridge?
Yeah, so the delay between July to August and September really wasn't ever given. I'm assuming there was too much on the agenda or there was something. And the same happened recently before council elections. So October, obviously, we couldn't do a certain amount of things, so this was one of those. But it's a shame it's also happened outside of my term.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms Herridge. Please note, administration have been advised that there may be other persons in attendance who have not registered for a formal deputation but may wish to speak on a deputation. Is there anyone else in the room that has a deputation? If that's the case, we go to item 4, Reports, Planning and Sustainability. Mr Bracconi, Acting Director of Planning, and Nick Delvecchius, Planner, in our Planning Department Manager. Are there any items you wish to speak to, Mr Bracconi?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, there are 2 items I'd like to speak to tonight, item 4.1 and 4.4, and we'll be happy to take questions on the other items from the Directorate.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So, item 4.1 proposes an amendment to District Planning Scheme number 2 to introduce some provisions to assist with the closure of developer contribution plans in cells 1 to 9 of the old East Wanneroo area. Some councillors will recall this has been discussed previously with Council. Administration has been progressing work on the proposed provisions for some time and had hoped to bring these to Council sooner, but it has taken longer than anticipated. Several of the old East Wanneroo cells have reached the point where all the cell works, such as distributor roads and public open space, have all been completed, all been completed. So continuing with these cells is therefore becoming somewhat unnecessary. State Planning Policy 3.6, developer contributions, currently states that once all works are complete, that a DCP should be closed. However, DPS 2 specifies that the cell should remain operational until all the land has been developed and contributions received. DPS 2 does not provide clear guidance on the process for the circumstances where some landowners have not developed their land or paid contributions. Therefore, the DCP could continue indefinitely. So the intent is to put in place an ability to close the cells but continue to collect contributions from those landowners who have not yet developed. And this can be through an agreement, an issuing of an invoice and being secured through a caveat on title, which would then enable contributions to be collected at such time that those landowners did choose to develop the land or perhaps decided to sell the land. The amendment also enables for the return of any excess funds by previous contributors. The amendment has been prepared with input from the City's legal team, our external legal advisors and discussions with the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage. The proposed changes provide clarity on the process of proceeding to close cells where all the works have been completed, but some non-developer landowners still remain. The amendment describes the process for ensuring that outstanding contributions can still be collected, but the DCP can be closed. This will provide that all landowners in a particular cell have or will contribute to the cell works. Any excess contributions will be periodically returned, and how much will be returned will depend on how much money is available and will be equitably returned based on the proportion of contributions previously paid. Madam Mayor, I'm happy to take any questions on item 4.1.
Councillors, do we have any questions on 4.1? Councillor Vin Nguyen, thank you.
Can you give us an idea of how much it costs to lodge a caveat on a property?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, I can't. Perhaps legal counsel might be able to assist.
Ms Coles?
Thank you for the question. I don't have an exact figure, but the landowners do contribute towards it as well.
Any other questions on this item, councillors?
I've got a couple of questions.
I'll work through them. Councillor Vin Nguyen?
I have received several complaints from various landowners that the cost of caveat charged by the city is excessive. And that's based on the time that is spent by the city's external team, legal team to charge based on hourly rate, which is a normal rate. But I guess my concern is as it's charged on an hourly rate, every time that is taken by the city's external team is actually paid by the landowner. Is there a way that we can either make it reasonable or cap the cost of up to a certain amount, so that way landowners aren't having to pay for these additional costs, which seems like, you know, quite transactional. It should be standard cost. It shouldn't be more than $1,000, I would have guessed.
Ms Coles?
Thank you for the question. We can certainly speak to some of the regular external lawyers that we work with, but because the landowners go to their own lawyer, we can't force them to go to a particular lawyer to give them the advice, and unfortunately we can't control what costs those lawyers then pass on to the residents for providing that advice, but we can certainly have a look into it.
Sorry.
Thank you, Ms Coles. You have another question?
Yes, if I can
Thank you.
clarify. The landowner actually pays both two costs. One is their own lawyer's cost, and the other is the city's lawyer's cost to lodge and withdraw a caveat in relation to the property.
Is that a question?
So, yeah, so to clarify, it's not the landowner's lawyer's cost that have to pay. I'm talking about the cost that they also have to pay the city's lawyer's costs.
Is that true? Make it a question, Councillor Nguyen. It's a statement.
Well, I'm saying...
Is it fair?
Well,
Is it so that...
Well, thank you for your assistance, Mayor. The question is, can we cap the costs that are charged by the city's lawyer?
Ms Coles?
Thank you for the question. So the city only charges the costs it is the Landgate charges, and if there are any PEXA fees. So none of the fees for the work that the city undertakes on it are charged to the resident, only the external, what we would call disbursements from Landgate.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms Coles. Councillor Nguyen, do you have another question?
I do. That relates to... Sorry, I was just... I'll come back. I'll come back.
Thank you. Councillors, do we have any other questions on item 4.1? Deputy Mayor Miles?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just to follow on from Councillor Nguyen, would it be the landowner that would be paying in this case? Surely is the city that's putting the caveat on, not the landowner.
Ms Coles?
Thank you for the question, Deputy Mayor Miles. So it's the cost for the resident to get their own legal advice, because essentially to put the caveat on, we could be releasing certain conditions in that. So it's for them to get their advice.
Thank you. Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Miles?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Back to Mr Bricconi. I have a couple of questions within the attachment 2, where it's the actual amendment proper. It obviously talks about placing a liability or a cost or a caveat on each landowner. My question is there, once that caveat goes on, is it going to be placed on forever, or is there a time limit that we would legally be allowed to place that on?
Thank
Mr.
you.
Bricconi.
Through the Mayor. No, there's no intention to place a time limit on it. It would remain until such time that that landowner either chose to develop the land, if at all, or they sold the land and then that would be applied to a future landowner, or perhaps we could seek to obtain the costs at that stage. I'm not sure of that detail, but I could clarify that for you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Bricconi. Deputy Mayor Miles?
Yeah, thank you. With that being said, my other part of the question is, Mr Bricconi, is if this goes through, and I'm supportive of closing these cells, don't get me wrong, but how will the city then prescribe the amount of funds that a landowner would need to pay within the cell, because there's no longer a cell cost as such?
Mr Bricconi?
Yes, thank you, through the Mayor. The proposal is that the figure that would be required to be contributed would be based on the estimated lot yield of that land area at the time we close the cell. So generally most cells have an estimated lot yield of 9 lots per hectare. Some are a little different, but that would be the figure, and that's a conservative figure as opposed to actual potential if someone was to develop it. That's how we're proposing to progress with this.
Thank you, Mr Bricconi. Deputy Mayor Miles?
Thank you. So just to follow on to go to my previous question and that one, my concern is if we say that a particular cell has a current cell DCP of say $29,000 per dwelling or lot, that owner decides not to do anything and a grandson comes along in 25 years' time. Is that still going to be the $28,000, $29,000 or would it be $50,000 or $54,000 per lot?
Thank you. Through the Mayor. The way we're proposing is that it would be that 29,000. It wouldn't change.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just one last final one. Thank you, Mayor.
Deputy Mayor.
In a normal DCP, we would dictate what we can spend the funds on, it's like a trust. In this one, we're hoping to tweak it that we can use the money in the area for upgrades of footpaths and so forth. But will we still have to specify what we can do with that?
Mr Brocconi.
Yeah, thank you. Through the Mayor. Look, it's my understanding, Councillor, that it would be to be spent within that same cell, but I need to take that on notice and provide that detail for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Van Nguyen.
Okay. The next issue just relates to the excess funds that's to be returned to the landowner or to a company that's been deregistered. And the idea, it seems, is we'll make reasonable efforts to contact, identify the owner, and we can spend it after 6 months from the decision by local council to distribute excess funds. It is the basis of the city's authority to use these funds. We've got legal advice to confirm that by amending the district planning scheme.
Ms Coles will answer this one.
Thank you.
Mr Brocconi.
Through the Mayor. I think any excess funds are to be returned to other developers, other contributors who have contributed in the past. So the city has a list of all who they all are. So any excess funds, whatever that amount might be, is distributed and returned to those on an equitable basis. Depending on how much they pay, there'd be a certain percentage that would be returned to them. In terms of if we cannot locate any of those original owners, then that any outstanding contributions has to be returned to ASIC, as I understand it. The city cannot hold on to those contributions.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Van Nguyen.
Sorry, can you just clarify? I understand we're making the amendment so that allows us to then apply those excess funds that could not be returned to the original owners.
Mr Brocconi.
Thank you, through the Mayor. The main intention of the amendment is to enable those cells to be closed, because I think when the scheme was written over 20 years ago, the thinking was how do we collect contributions and so forth. I don't think there was a lot of thought given to the closure process at the end of it 20 plus years later. The only provisions say that it should be closed once all the works have been completed and all the land has been developed. But what we're finding is that there are some holdout landowners, if you like, who for whatever reason have chosen not to develop, can't develop. And that just means that we just have to keep these cells keep them going in perpetuity, and that requires administration costs, annual reviews, and so on and so forth. So, I guess by putting this amendment in place, it allows those cells to be closed, excess funds to be returned, and a process in place that the city can still collect outstanding contributions and enable them to be distributed to other contributors. So it's really I guess a tidying up of at the end of a process where most of these cells are getting to their end of their life and all the works have been developed. And initially it's cells 1 and 5 which are completely done in terms of the works, and there's I think a handful of landowners in each of those cells.
Thank you, Mr Brocconi. Councillor Van Nguyen.
Can you give us an idea of how many people landowners are affected and the amount of funds that are not able to be distributed because we couldn't find a landowner or the company has been deregistered? Can you give us an idea of, I guess, what we're looking at?
Mr Bricconi.
Thank you, through the Mayor. No, Councillor, no, I cannot give you that figure. I can give you an estimate of the number of landowners in Cell 1 and Cell 5 where all the works have been completed. There's about 5 landowners in Cell 1 and about 25 in Cell 5 that haven't developed their land. But in terms of the funding, those other questions, I'd have to take that on notice and provide that information before Council.
Yes, if you could.
Thank you, Mr Bricconi. Do you have another question?
If I could have that information at the next council meeting, thank you.
Any other questions on item 4.1? If there are now no other questions on item 4.1, we go to 4.2. Mr Bricconi, do you want to speak to that item? Are there any questions on item 4.2? If there are no questions on item 4.2, are there, would you like to speak to item 4.3, Mr Bricconi? Any questions on item 4.3? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one from me. Submission 1.5, there was a statement in there around the city's consultant not wanting to take up to meet with the ALEO representatives. Was there any context as to why that didn't occur?
Mr Bricconi.
Thank you, through the Mayor. I don't have any particular information about that, but I can take that on notice and provide that for Council, Councillor.
Any other questions on item 4.3? If there are no other questions on item 4.3, we now go to item 4.4. Would you like to speak to item 4.4, Mr Bricconi? Yes? Oh, sorry. There's a question on the last one. Item 4.3.
I'm over in the corner.
Councillor Fick.
Thank you, Mayor. The $131 million, which is the updated amount that takes into account the cost escalations, is predicted that this would cover the total costs for these facilities in today's dollars without including grants or municipal funding?
Mr Bricconi.
Thank you, through the Mayor. That is the estimated cost of those works, yes, without grants.
Thank you. Item 4.3. If there are no other questions on item 4.4. If there are no other questions on item 4.3. Do you have a question on item 4.3? Okay, Mr Bricconi wants to speak to item 4.4 first. Mr Bricconi.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, item 4.4 relates to Precinct 3, Elliott Road Local Structure Plan in the East Wanneroo District Structure Plan area, which is before us following public consultation and assessment by administration. Precincts 7, 8 and 15 in East Wanneroo have already been considered by Council and supported subject to modifications. Precinct 3 shares several similarities with the other LSPs. In essence, it is generally consistent with the East Wanneroo District Structure Plan and sets out the neighbourhood layout, open space network and movement framework needed to guide future development and subdivision. Through the consultation process and administration's assessment, a series of modifications, 45 in total, have been identified, and they're in attachment 5 of the report. These include, some of the main ones include relocating and redesigning public open space to better protect mature vegetation, limiting the neighbourhood centre to an appropriate local scale, requiring a local formal cost-sharing arrangement to ensure fair contribution towards infrastructure and open space, and updating the bushfire and water management plans. The local road network and pedestrian and cycle links have also been looked at to support better connectivity and walkability across the precinct. These proposed modifications respond to the relevant planning, environmental and infrastructure considerations. So with these modifications, the structure plan provides a sound basis for orderly and proper planning and supports the delivery of new housing in East Wanneroo and community spaces. Administration is therefore recommending that Council supports the structure plan with the listed modifications, and then we forward it to the West Australian Planning Commission for determination. Mr De Vecchis and I are happy to take any questions on this item.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have 13 questions, so feel free to cut me off when you're
Just
tired
a
of hearing
few.
my voice. The first question I had was on page 75, and it was regarding the neighbourhood playing field and pavilion/community centre. And just a question for the administration. So can a works in kind agreement be put in place for the developer to build this infrastructure for us and we take it over when the precinct gets handed over to us?
Mr Bricconi? Mr Vecchius?
We could thank through the Mayor. We could explore opportunities for that. It wouldn't form a modification to the structure plan as proposed. The administration has put forward a modification for a local contribution plan to be put forward for the funding of that infrastructure. But short answer is we could look into it.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. My second question is on page 80, and it's in relation to modification number 41. And the administration has said on there that the transport impact assessment or the road cross sections are consistent with local planning policy 5.3. However, in the actual wording of it, we have accepted that as the modification. However, there's nothing in that modification that asks the developer to comply with LPP 5.3, which I know for the other precincts got taken out at the WAPC, but as the elected officials for the community, we should be sticking with the intent that we set through that sense of place statement and working group that we had. So is there any chance that that modification can be amended to include that LPP 5.3 is complied with regarding road reserve widths?
Mr Delvekis.
Yes, we could change the modification slightly to represent a change to the, I guess, the wording in the structure plan documentation. Effectively, that would be a change to the explanatory section, which is part 2 of the structure plan documentation, which doesn't really hold the statutory weight to do that. So the TIA that guides the structure plan would be the guiding document that we would refer to when we were doing the subdivision application, which is where we would require those road cross sections to be demonstrated. But the answer is yes, we could amend that modification to require part 2 to be updated to reflect those those changes.
Thank you, Mr Delvekis. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. My third question is also on page 80 regarding adding a modification. I know the developer has already put a section in there around offering both quiet house packages and noise walls. However, is there an opportunity for council to add a modification to explore both sides of Lenore Road, considering that existing users within Hocking that pretty much have a street and a very thin wall of vegetation will be heavily impacted by this new precinct? So is that something that can be looked or explored with the developer between now and the OCM?
Mr Delvekis.
Yes, so the process for the noise walls and the requirement for noise mitigation measures would come effectively through the design stage at subdivision. So what we would expect is that once the subdivision is lodged on the back of approval of this structure plan, the proponent would be required to submit a noise assessment, which would detail the noise mitigation measures required to be implemented along road corridors. That would be required from existing and proposed development. That's when, I guess, the state planning policy would require administration to request those upgrades to happen. So we could include more robust wording in the structure plan around that, but it is already baked into the state planning framework for the proponent to deliver those noise walls if they were to develop those roads.
Thank you, Mr Delvekis. Any other questions? Councillor Wright.
I suppose just a supplementary on that, if I can. I note that there was a map that was included in the concept plan which actually had the noise wall layouts. So I'm just curious that obviously if that has any statutory or I guess enforcement for us, as opposed to if it's clearly in the structure plan, then we know that it will happen. It's a matter of when that subdivision occurs, rather than you're talking about you're assessing it on a case-by-case basis for each subdivision that happens. So I'm trying to look at a more consistent approach for both sides of Lenore Road. Is it possible of embedding that at a structure plan level?
Thank you, Mr Delvecchis.
Yes, we could absolutely include wording to that effect. Just as I guess a point of clarification with relation to the noise assessment that was conducted and the information surrounding the noise. Originally, that Lenore Road wasn't included in the boundaries of the structure plan, and so it wasn't included in the, I guess, completely included in the noise assessment per se. I would say that once now that the road is included in the boundaries of the structure plan, any future application for subdivision would require a noise assessment to demonstrate compliance on both sides of the road. But yes, we can absolutely include some form of wording to that effect in the structure plan document.
Thank you, Mr Delvecchis. Deputy Mayor Miles?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow on from Councillor Wright, Mayor. Just on the noise wall situation, whilst we're placing that in here and obviously requesting the developer to put a noise wall up and or quiet house, we know quiet house doesn't work. How does that work with our own policy through our infrastructure team that they don't put in noise walls?
Maybe a question for
Mr Singh.
Mr. Singh, yes.
Thank you, Mayor. My understanding is under state planning policy, local authorities are exempt to provide those noise walls when we go in and upgrade road infrastructure.
Thank you. Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Miles?
So which policy are we looking at? So do our planners override our own policy? I'm just trying to understand if we're approving, say, noise walls through planning, does that mean that infrastructure has to approve those walls going in, or do you say, no, you can't do it?
Mr Singh?
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. If there is a requirement under the subdivisional approval to provide noise walls, then that will be considered at the time of land development. When City of Wanneroo comes in later on in future to upgrade the existing roads to a second carriageway, for example, Lenore Road, we did do a noise assessment and we assessed under state planning policy. I can't remember the exact number at the moment, but local government as such is not required to provide noise walls under that policy. That policy mainly applies to state controlled roads. So there is no such requirement on local government to provide those noise walls after the subdivision has been constructed.
Thank you. Councillor Wright, did you have another question? You said you had 13. We weren't there yet.
Sorry, I was trying to give everyone a chance. On page 81, there was some statements around the sense of place. And I was just curious, what was the update around the community character guidelines and when they'll be available? Considering that now this is the fourth precinct that's come to us, I feel like this may be now too ad hoc, where we've had 4 precincts that have had no guidelines as such, and now the rest of the precincts will. So do we have an update on when that will come to us?
Mr Delvecchis?
Yes. So the community character guidelines are currently I guess, being formulated. We've engaged a consultant to help us with the consultation of and formulation of that. The idea is that we will be able to present something to council, I think, the first quarter of next year, I believe is the timing on that. I think engagement with councillors will happen prior to that. In terms of their, I guess, integration with the East Wanneroo and how they'll be reflected in the development of East Wanneroo, the administration's working very closely with developers and proponents to ensure that the current sense of place statements and vision embedded in the structure plans are at least reflected in the detailed design of these precincts. So when we receive subdivision applications, we'll put on conditions requesting that they reflect their sense of place statement they've included in their structure planning to make sure that that's, I guess, embedded and put on the ground.
Thank you, Mr Delvecchis. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. On page 93, there was a spelling error, which is in the modifications list, so I'm not sure if that has any impact on the actual statutory part of it. So on page 93, it says lots affected by Quist house design. I think that's supposed to be quiet, so just thought I'd point that out in case.
Yes, we did actually notice that today as well. We'll have that modified. Thank you. There's maybe one other point of modification that we might want to just mention. One of the modifications references precinct 8, and I believe that was modification number 9, and we will have that amended to reference precinct 3.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. On page 149, which is the net needs assessment and net benefit test, I did have some quite a few concerns with this report, and I spotted a number of errors throughout the document. So I'm not sure how reliable the document is, but I would like to see if admin can go back to the developers and ask for either a new copy or someone else to do it, because there was a number of comments in there around apparently we have a Woolworths in Wanneroo, which is not true, and if that could be pointed out, that would be great. Spud shed in Ngara. There is no spud shed in Ngara, there's spud shed in Wangara. So there's a number of assertions that have been made which are not correct, and I don't know whether that has affected on some of the calculations that the developers have put together around particularly the big anchor tenants for some of these shopping centres. So I'm just wanting to make sure that that's all clarified, and I guess I'll explain in my further questions why I do have some concerns on those, but just for that to be taken on note if possible.
Mr Delvekis.
Yes, we can absolutely have that conversation with the proponent.
Can I just ask a question? When they talk about the Wanneroo Town Centre, we don't have a Woolworths there, but we do have one in Hocking, which is not far away. I don't know if that might have been caught up in that as well, if you could check that as well. Thank you. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. On page 163 of our agenda, sorry, I'm Googling this as I'm going up, I was just wanting to know the impacts that this will have on the Hocking Neighbourhood Centre, which already struggles to retain tenants. And later in that same report, it concludes that the Pearsall Local Centre will have a net per annum impact of $300,000 loss. So I'm just hesitant because Hocking already struggles, Pearsall is not so bad, but having another commercial centre within a 5-minute drive may reduce the viability of some of those businesses. So I was just wondering if there's some more modelling or some more context that can be given for councillors for that.
Thank you, through the Mayor. Yes, thank you, Councillor. We can look into that question and provide you with some further advice on the impact.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. And I suppose supplementary to that as well, and noting the actual location of where the proposed commercial centre is on the concept plan, I'm not sure whether we could maybe add, again, modification that it be relocated more centrally within the precinct, away from the existing within the existing suburb, and move it more centrally, because I know further towards the back of the precinct, I don't think there's anything that's been proposed, noting that the other precincts haven't come yet, but possibly if that's something that maybe could be looked at away from the major Lenore Road.
Yes, that can
Mr.
absolutely. Through you, Mayor. Absolutely, that's something that can be looked at. I note that the administration has put forward a recommendation to reduce the size of the proposed centre, as it doesn't completely align with the district structure plan. Notwithstanding, there is some traffic considerations relating to the design of Lenore Road and the rapid bus transit route that might require the, revisitation of the location of that centre anyway. So absolutely, that's something we can have a discussion about.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Just relating to page 796 and 813, there was some commentary in the report around traffic signals to be installed on Lenore Road at Nicholas Road intersection. If so, can Nicholas Road intersection be modified to a 4-way intersection? Because I know there were some concerns from local residents as they couldn't get out. And for one of my CRMs a year ago, we were told that the design that we have now was going to be the final design. So now that we have an opportunity that there will be traffic lights, is there an opportunity to open that up so people within Hocking has another exit and entry point to go out of the suburb?
Mr Delvekis.
Through you, Mayor, we'll have to take that on notice. I can have a look at the traffic information and where that sits in the structure plan documentation and provide it before the next council.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Huntley.
Sorry. After the fires, the animals from around the lake system tended to migrate, and they moved towards Badgerup Lake, and we're finding more animals are around there. My question to you is, can you tell us the exact date of when the environmental assessment study was done?
Mr Delvekis.
Through you, Mayor, I would have to review the environmental assessment and get back to you on that.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Yes.
Councillor Hunt.
I've got a few, Mayor. Thank you. I will go to... on the plan of the area, there are obviously some large amounts of green areas, which we do thank the developer for actually including those. However, the issue that I have with these is that they are going to cause an enormous amount of landlocking of animals, and animals then will migrate into the streets that are left. And it would be a simple exercise if a link could be put between the parkland areas. It wouldn't take too much, and I don't think you'd lose many homes. But if they could link together, we could actually, for the first time, feasibly create some corridors for these animals to move, especially as these animals are going to move between Badgerup Lake and Lake Marinjanup and Dundebar. And this area here is their migratory area at the moment. Their tracks are through here. So this is going to cause an issue. My question is, has the city contemplated corridors being added? And also, there is a neighbourhood playing field right next to a parkland reserve, which is on the route to Badgerup Lake, which means that you're going to get snakes and various other animals that certainly aren't going to want to play in the playing field, but, you know, it could become a problem in the playing field. So my question is there any consideration that the city would advise the developer to create corridors through here?
Mr Delvekis.
Through you, Mayor. The city hasn't contemplated the inclusion of, I guess, wildlife corridors as part of the precinct. There isn't a statutory requirement through the district structure plan for there to be ecological linkages through precinct 3. The district structure plan does have, I guess, the parkland links, which link the different wetlands together, and those are required to be, I guess, quite distinct vegetated corridors for pedestrian movement, but also, I guess, to allow certain wildlife to traverse the area. Notwithstanding, if council were of mind to request some form of, I guess, wildlife corridor, we could explore that through the design of the green streets that we've proposed or something along those lines.
Thank you, Mr Delvekis. Do you have another question, Councillor Huntley?
Was the, or is the planning department aware that we actually did discuss perhaps a vision for how the city would evolve, especially East Wanneroo, because of the wildlife, and also for Two Rocks and Eglinton as well, because they have issues up there as well. But this vision would actually then help developers see that there may be a wildlife issue from an area that is basically quite native compared to the rest of Perth, and we have an enormous amount of animals that are going to be displaced by what we're doing. So that vision never came to fruition. We never seemed to it never evolved, we never saw it. Were you aware that there was a request by council to create a vision? You're looking very surprised.
Through you, Mayor. I am not aware of a vision that was requested to be prepared by administration. What I can say is that there is I guess a sense of place statement, a district sense of place statement, and a neighbourhood sense of place statement prepared by administration to help guide the vision for the development of each precinct. Each developer has put together for their local structure plan a vision, a statement for the development of their structure plan area, and these often include the provision of parklands to protect native vegetation. Generally, where there is a parkland link included in their structure plan area, they'll have area set aside to develop that parkland link to allow these things to occur. In Precinct 3, there isn't a parkland link. It runs along the east and the north of Precinct 3. Administration has requested that the structure plan include green streets, which the proponent has also proposed, moving east-west through the structure plan to connect parklands to those parkland links. And that wording can be, I guess, construed as a way to provide those linkages that you're looking for as well.
Thank you, Mr Dilvickers. Councillor Huntley.
Do you think the sense of place actually includes any of the wildlife?
Mr Dilvicker.
Through you, Mayor. The sense of place, it definitely has a consideration towards local flora and fauna. So the area is obviously being urbanised and will certainly remove vegetation from the area, and that will displace fauna in the area as well. However, through the provision of public open space and nature POS, the large areas of native vegetation will be retained. That is what is being proposed in Precinct 3.
Thank you, Mr Dilvickers. Do you have another question, Councillor Huntley?
So, so bird life, really under the sense of place, has quite a good opportunity to actually survive within the city areas. However, the ground-dwelling animals, so the quendas, the possums and the kangaroos and the lizards, really are going to struggle with what we are faced with and mass housing. Our little picture doesn't actually show us how many houses are going to go into each of these plots, but I would consider there would be several thousand
Councillor
going in
Huntley,
there.
could you ask your question, please?
So my question is, what does the city think now, knowing that there could be an issue with ground-dwelling animals? Would the city consider speaking to the developer and perhaps seeing if there is a way to provide some provision for these corridors, which are really essentially needed?
Mr Dilvicker.
Through you, Mayor. Yes, absolutely. We can have those conversations with the developer, especially given that we've requested amendments to the public open space and the inclusion of green streets. We can continue that conversation with them and hash out exactly how that's going to look, given council's appetite for ecological linkages in the area.
Thank you, Mr Dilvickers. Do you have another question?
Thank you. That would actually be of great benefit. And could you include that into the agenda for the ordinary council meeting, that you would have those discussions? Because I think that would be an important thing for the community to see.
Mr Dilvickers.
Thank you. Thank you. Through the chair, we can certainly convey to council the outcome of the discussions that we have with the developers. Any modifications at this stage, administration is comfortable with the recommendation, as is if council is of a mind to make some alternative modifications or different modifications. That's entirely in your hands.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr Brocconi. Any other questions? Councillor Huntley.
Okay. So in a set of questions that I did actually send to the administration, it says here, the precinct does not include any wildlife corridors. but it will include a conservation-style fence around retained bushland as per the city. We are actually saying we're going to keep dogs out. Now, we have nearly 2,000 homes going in here, could possibly be at least 1,000 dogs, and we're going to keep dogs out of the. I don't see any facilities at all
Councillor
for domestic
Huntley,
animals.
what is your question?
So my question is, has the city again advised the developer that perhaps there should be some space allocated for domestic animals?
Mr Delvekis.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. The detailed design of the public open spaces is included in the master plan as an attachment to the structure plan. The detailed design of the actual parklands will be, hashed down as a condition of subdivision approval. The nature of public open space retains vegetation where it's of a quality that is worthy of retention. Usually, these areas have some partial areas of retention with fencing around them and areas of recreation as well, where domestic animals could, be exercised and whatever. The other areas of public open space that aren't nature POS will have recreational abilities for domestic animals as well.
Thank you, Mr Delvekis. Councillor Huntley, you have another question?
Do you think the areas that are portrayed actually are able to share?
Mr Delvekis.
Without looking at the detailed master plan for the public open space at this stage, they generally are able to provide public open space where recreation and passive recreation can, be co-designed. But I can take that question on notice and provide more detail at the next council meeting.
Thank you, Mr Delvekis. Any other questions? Councillor Huntley.
The city has a fauna management plan, and that fauna management plan, as far as I found out when we looked into this matter, when these precincts were first discussed, the fauna management plan actually did require a developer to engage an expert to translocate before any sort of discussion for termination of those animals was required. Yet I've seen in the notice that I've had back that actually doesn't appear to be one of the requirements. Can you check that for me and come back?
Mr Delvekis.
Through you, Mayor, yes, we can have a look at that and provide that information at the next council meeting.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Huntley.
I'm going to ask this question. Please take it on notice. But what is the city's position? Should the animals need to be culled, or what would the city's position be?
Mr Delvekis.
Through you, Mayor, yes, we'll take that on notice and provide you for that information in the next council meeting.
Councillors, any more questions on this item? Deputy Mayor Miles.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just two questions to the officers. My first one is on page 178, it clearly defines the rail corridor as well as the road. Are they pretty much as per the department's requirements? So are they accurate or relatively accurate?
Mr Delvekis.
So these are the most, through you, Mayor, sorry, these are the most accurate designs that we've received from the state government to date. They reflect, the traffic engineering and engineering designs provided by the state government for the future alignment of those roads. They are not set in stone as yet, and there will definitely be a point of discussion moving forward prior to the finalisation of the local structure plan.
Thank you, Mr Delvekis. Deputy Mayor Miles.
Thank you, Mayor. Just because I do note that on the corner of Elliott Road and Lenore Road, the transit corridor cuts right across that lot where there's a proposed shopping centre going. So I've sort of found that a bit odd that it sort of doesn't align. My other question was, I know it does refer to it in the report, but but I just want to confirm it from you verbally, is we are going to be doing a DCP for this area so we get our community centres?
Mr Delvecchis or Mr Bricconi?
Thank you. One of the modifications that we're proposing is the need for a local developer contribution plan.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Wright.
Just one further one from me, Mayor. Just looking at the, where is it, the location map. Did administration have any views or comments on the amount of pocket parks that have been proposed? I know it's been a conversation that we've had around this table, and I know the assets team don't look very fondly on pocket parks either because of the amount of maintenance and playground upgrades and all of that sort of stuff. So have we actually consulted internally in regards to the amount of pocket parks we are getting for some of these precincts, noting that we already struggle now to keep up with upgrading playground equipment at all of our parks across the district, and then we're going to add another 5 or 6 every, couple of blocks. So is there any, views, or has there been discussions that have been had in regards to maybe setting a limit for pocket parks per precinct or something like that, where we are focusing and concentrating on more of those neighbourhood size sort of parks?
Mr Delvecchis.
Through you, Mayor. Yes, there was an internal referral process to various departments across the city to provide their comments on the different infrastructure being proposed as part of the structure plan. We do generally try to consolidate public open space where we can to create more meaningful public open space centralised to the precinct. In this regard, we have requested modifications to public open space as 4, 5 and 6 to be more centrally located, which would create a larger, more meaningful public open space and would also create a better outcome for retention of natural vegetation.
Thank you, Mr Delvecchis. Any other questions? Councillor Bedworth.
Thank you, Mayor. Just looking at the diagrams, and I'm not sure it's the right question directed to you good selves, but looking at the road infrastructure that's planned, I can't help but notice that all the roads seem to be arrow straight drag strips. Is there any scope for us to get some designs involved to essentially create some traffic calming that is going to be needed in the future when we get the inevitable complaints about speeding vehicles and then the city then has to retrofit it? Can we get that in from the get-go?
Mr Delvecchis.
Through you, Mayor. Yes, so at the subdivision stage, we can absolutely refine the designs to make sure that the roads meander a little bit more than they do, shown on the concept planning here, that we can also have opportunities to explore the infrastructure be upgraded as they're being put in to ensure that there's raised medians and the like to ensure traffic calming. Thank
you. Any other questions? Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This should hopefully be my last question. In the items that you sent me in answer to my questions, it says here it is not for the city to require a developer to engage an expert specialist, though we may strongly suggest so. Does the city have a list of local translocators? Especially with the size, obviously, of the displacement that we are going to see in Wanneroo. And do you not agree that if you don't have a list, that you could investigate local translocators in order to help owners make decisions?
Mr Delvecchis.
Through you, Mayor. I'm not aware of any list of translocators that the city holds that we actively engage. However, I will consult with our environmental team and provide that information at the next council meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question was for the developers. What level is required when they are installing the parks? Just more wanting to know to what sort of standard level are we requiring them to hand it over at?
Mr Delvecchis.
Through you, Mayor. We have a local planning policy which includes the various standards for different sorts of parks. So when they submit their designs for the public open space, they'll submit that. That'll be assessed by our land development team and referred to our assets team, who will ensure that it aligns with that policy to make sure that the infrastructure that is provided in the park aligns with the size of park that is being proposed.
Thank you, Mr Delvecchis. Councillor Moore.
Thank you. And does this also include shade sails being installed at the playgrounds upon handover?
Mr Delvecchis.
Through you, Mayor. My understanding is shade sails are a requirement over play equipment to be installed, and then I think the city effectively puts up those shade sails during the hotter months of the year.
I'm sorry, Mayor, if I may. The city's local planning policy on public open space does have some specific criteria on what is required for different types of park, be they local, neighbourhood or otherwise, in terms of the levels of equipment and such, shade sails and so forth. And I'll note that I think it's at next week's policy forum. The policy is to be discussed in some further detail. So perhaps we could explore that a little further.
Thank you, Mr Bricconi. Any other questions, councillors? If there are no other questions, we now go to assets. Mr Singh. Mr Singh and Mr Ford, do you have any items you wish to speak to this evening?
Thank you, Mayor. No, we got 3 items from Assets Directorate. All 3 are tender reports. Just one couple of comments before we take questions. On item 4.6, we have circulated in your packs today a copy of the plans and also an updated confidential attachment. For item 4.C, just preempting that we will be making some changes in that report to account for the headworks and service authority costs, which have become available now. So we'll be amending the financial figures in that particular report.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Do you have any questions, councillors, on item 4.5, Tender 25096, provision of consultancy services for the Wanneroo Emergency Services Precinct and Two Rocks Bushfire Brigade and State Emergency Services Station? Any questions, councillors? If there are no questions, any question for item 4.6, tender number 25118, construction of sports amenities building, Abbeyville Park, Mindari. Deputy Mayor Rowe.
Just Councillor now.
Councillor Rowe, sorry.
Demotion as of last week. Mayor, this is in relation to the public documents and not the confidential attachments, and some notice has been provided. Just in relation, Mr Singh, to page 229, I note that Oryxon is the 8th ranked tenderer for overall qualitative weighted assessment and ranking, but it ultimately is the recommended tender that you're putting before us this evening. Can you provide any commentary around that and some assurances to council members? Because over the 4 and a bit years I've been here, I haven't really seen a tender rank last, but be the recommended one.
Mr Singh.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. What I can say in this open meeting is that all tenders met our requirements of the tender, this particular tender package. So therefore, we looked at the further analysis for value for money and recommended this particular tender.
Thank you. Any other questions on 4.6? Mr Figg. Councillor Figg.
That'll do. I guess building on Councillor Rowe's point as well, I do kind of think back to the Yanchep Surf Lifesaving Club, and I understand that they probably would have met the minimum requirements at that stage. Have the requirements since that stage been changed to ensure something like that doesn't happen in this particular case?
I remember. Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. I remember that as well. This particular, in this, we have a minimum requirement, but what I can say is all tenders met our requirements, including the recommended one. The couple of other things which we have done further is after we do the assessment, we do further due diligence, as mentioned in the confidential attachment. We do look at like risk assessments on the preferred or shortlisted tender, and once we are satisfied that the risks can be accepted or mitigated, we make a recommendation based on value for money.
Thank you, Mr Singh. Any other questions on this item? If there are no other questions on this, Councillor Vin Nguyen.
Just so I can understand, you carry out the risk assessment after you rank the tenderers based on, I guess, the calculation that they put forward. Is that what you're saying?
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we are going into some of the discussion which you may be in a confidential session. I'm happy to explain that further if you wish to go into the further detail and which is contained in confidential attachment.
When we go to confidential session, if you want to ask, you can ask those questions then, but we can't do it in an open session. Thank you. Any other questions on this item that aren't part of the confidential session? Okay, we now go to item 4.7, tender 25200, services upgrades to Brazier Road, Yanchep. Do we have any questions on this item? If there are no questions on this item, we now go to community and place. Thank you. Ms Davis, do you have any items in your section that you wish to speak to this evening?
Good evening, Mayor Aiken and councillors. Community in Place has 4 items on the agenda tonight, and we didn't intend on introducing any of those. We're available for questions.
Thank you, Ms Davis. Do I have any questions on item 4.8, councillors? Councillor Van Nguyen.
With the proposed waiver, is it intended to encourage more participation by residents? Because there seems to be suggesting that residents who have a fee attached to them, they seem to be not coming back to the libraries anymore.
Ms Kruger.
Thank you. Through the chair, yes, that's exactly what we're hoping this will achieve. We want to welcome everybody back to our libraries, particularly our most vulnerable residents.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Van Nguyen.
And is the practice going forward will be the same, that we won't be, I guess, charging a fee for lost items or damaged library items?
Thank you.
Ms Kruger.
Sorry, through the mayor. In 24-25, Council approved in our fees and charges schedule the abolishment of library fees, so no new fees have been incurred since the 1st of July, and it's our intention to review how this goes this year, but we're very much hoping that we don't have to ever bring them back. That will be in line with best practice.
Thank you. Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Miles.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just a quick one. After we've done this process, Ms Davis, does that mean that this will just be normally processed through normal yearly business? So we're not going to have to do this every 10 years?
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. That is correct. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions on item 4.8, library fees? There are no other questions on 4.8. I now go to item 4.9, dogs on lead in nature reserves and response to PTO 1725 Scenic Park. Do I have any questions on this item? Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have several questions, if that's okay. I just begin on page 250 of the agenda proper, in the section that provides the quote beginning with that the motion be deferred for administration. It ends by saying administration to present a report to council for consideration by July 2025. Now, we understand that not to be the case. So can administration confirm if they were non-compliant with council's resolution that evening?
Mr CEO.
Thank you, Councillor Rowe. Trying to adjust as well between the new deputy. So yes, I would confirm that we did not meet that deadline that was set by council. So if that's the confirmation you're looking for, that's it. But I will just state that every month we have agenda settlement, and we try to settle an agenda that's achievable, consumable by the elected group. And sometimes we get that right, and sometimes we get that wrong. So, you know, even if we look at tonight's agenda, this particular item was up in the air again because we also had some other challenging items that could have been on the agenda that were subsequently withdrawn. So it's constantly a balance and that's the role that I play, to assemble the agenda and put it in front of council. So sometimes we aim to meet those council resolutions all the time, and from time to time we're unable to.
Thank you. Any more questions? Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. Just picking up on two separate things that was one mentioned in the deputation. The beginning of the report says that the initial motion on notice was moved by yourself, Mayor, which is incorrect. It was moved by the former councillor. So I would like that changed in the report, please. The second one would be also on page 250. There's a paragraph that says there was general discussion among councillors at this OCM meeting. My recollection of the event is that an amendment was moved and it was failed. So if the administration is including commentary about what went on or what took place at a council meeting, I think it should be accurate. So I'd ask if those two changes could be made to the report, Mayor. One of the other things that I wanted to ask about was on page 252, the reference to a petition. Can I ask if that petition was received as a change.org petition rather than a hard copy template that the city ordinarily accepts? Is it still our position as a city that we do not accept change.org petitions? And if it was accepted, why was it regarded as legitimate?
Ms Davis.
Through yourself, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor. I do know that the petition was tabled and accepted by Council, and we respond to Council's resolutions. In regards to a change.org petition not meeting our policy, I'd need to defer that to someone else.
Thank you. Change.org. I think administration says they're going to take it on notice. Councillor Rowe.
And just the last question from me, Mayor, also referred to in the deputation. The attachments provide a collection of screenshots in support of the administration's recommendation, and there's screenshots from an ABC News post. Is it standard practice for the administration to include that type of information as evidence when it never formed part of the legitimate consultation undertaken by the city's administration?
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for this question. During the course of this item coming in and out of Council, we did receive some feedback from councillors requesting that we did do some further analysis, particularly on social media, and to include that into the report.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got 2 or 3 questions on this item. My first one is on page 254 under the financial implications section. There was a comment in there that said, should the decision be made to proactively patrol dogs to be on lead in the 20 nature reserves and parks, additional resources would be required. Can I ask the administration how much would be required to effectively manage this situation?
Ms Davis.
Through the Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Wright. We'll take that on notice and provide a considered response with the changes to the report.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. In supplementary to that, does the administration have contingencies in place for ranger resourcing, and how will this be managed?
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe that the 2 questions are related, so we'll respond on notice. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor.
Just got one more.
Oh, you got one more, have you?
Thanks, Mayor. My last question on this item, as administration is aware regarding the petition from residents and users of Scenic Park, does the administration have a process or methodology on how dog fenced areas or exercise areas would be created due to the removal of more space that is currently used by dog owners, people, leisure activities?
Thank you, Ms Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for this question. Currently, there is no strategy in place. However, as part of the Community Facilities Planning Framework and through Council advocacy, a dog exercise strategy is going to be developed in 26-27, which will help formulate that, a response to that.
Thank you. I'll go Councillor Moore, then Councillor Berry, then Councillor Hugh Newen, then Councillor Bedworth, then Councillor Huntley. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With the dogs off leads, I know this has been a bit of a contentious one, but are we able to allow some nature reserves to be off-lead areas so dogs are able to just run? And I understand we are concerned about the fauna and the wildlife, but we're having weekly dog attacks in neighbourhoods, and the concern I'm having with this, if we're closing those reserves, we're pushing those dogs off leads into our neighbourhoods. We've got dogs off leads around playgrounds. People don't feel safe walking there, like just going for a 30-minute walk in most of their neighbourhoods. Because if you look on neighbourhood pages, there are dogs off lead who are not effectively managed. So I guess my question in this as well is, are we able to foresee having some nature reserves possibly open so people who have their dogs and they want to let them off leads can do that? And my follow-up question would be what do we have in place if we do close this? What do we have in place to protect residents?
Ms Thrush.
Through you, Mayor, to answer the first question as to can we foresee some nature reserves remaining off lead, the city has a number of parks and reserves that are already off lead, so this 28 is a very small proportion of the city's overall parks and reserves where people are allowed to exercise their dogs already off lead. So that would be my answer to the first question. The second question, what do we have in place for if this goes ahead? Was that your... really, we've got in place already, there's already a large number of off-lead reserves that people can use, and all owners are required to be responsible dog owners and to be under control, have their dogs under effective control at all times.
Thank you. Is that all, Councillor Moore? Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I please ask how many residents took part in the consultation rather than giving us percentages that 52 supported, 10 neither agreed or disagreed and 38 did not support? How actual many people was that in terms of actual numbers? Thank you, please. That's my first question.
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Councillor, for your question. We will update that in the changes to the reports.
Thank you. Your second question,
Thank you. My second question relates to page 251, and it says administration have been working with DBCA in looking at Lake Joondalup and Yellowgonga Regional Park. Have DBCA commented on any other of the proposed areas, please?
Ms Davis.
Through yourself, Mayor, not at this stage.
Any other questions, Councillor Berry?
One more, thank you, Mayor. At the bottom of page 250, it says, this will allow the city to enforce that dogs are required to be on a lead in the 20 specified nature reserves and parks as per attachment 1. As we've just heard, there are many dog attacks on residents, people, other dogs. I haven't heard so much on, I suppose, wildlife. As per the report, we don't track that. So knowing we've already got a shortage of rangers on the ground to be able to go and deal with the dog attacks we currently have, how are the city going to manage that is going to allow the city to enforce that dogs are required to be on lead at the 20 specified nature reserves if we're already struggling to manage the owners that don't have control of their dogs in our other parks and places, please?
Ms Thrush.
Through you, Mayor. The city has adequate rangers to investigate dog attacks that are reported to the city. In terms of how the city will enforce these 28 nature reserves, the proposal is to do it on a complaints basis where rangers will investigate any complaints.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Hugh Newen.
I thought someone was before me. Thank you, Mayor. I've got a few questions, if I may. Can I just clarify, first of all, on page sorry, I had it tagged. Okay, on page 253, it talks about so the off-lead permitted parks are shown in green, and then the ones that are not off-lead permitted are shown in red, as in attachment 3. I'm particularly interested in Lake Nangara. On page 258, Lake Nangara is shown as a green park, but on page 269, it's shown as a red. Can you just clarify whether Lake Nangara is, in fact, a off-lead permitted park or not an off-lead permitted park?
Ms Thrush?
Through you, Mayor, we will clarify in the council report, the map on page 269, the red bit should only be for the public access way or the bridle ways, which are where dogs are required to be on lead currently. And then the map on page 258 is the map that proposes that that whole reserve be dogs on lead. So currently it's the public access ways or the bridle ways that they must be on lead.
Okay.
Thank you. And Councillor Hugh.
I have about 3 or 4 more questions, Mayor, if I may. Does the city know what sort of wildlife actually currently lives at the Lake Nangara? Do we have any sort of idea?
Ms Thrush?
That would be a question we'd have to take on notice. That would be for the environmental team.
Okay.
Councillor Hugh Newen.
Thank you, Mayor. Does the city have any evidence of wildlife being harmed by dogs off lead, whether empirically or anecdotally, at Lake Nangara?
Ms Thrush?
Through you, Mayor, the anecdotal evidence we've got isn't linked to any particular reserve. It's more nature reserves as a whole.
Councillor Hugh Newen.
Is the city aware of any incidents where dogs off leads attacked or caused harm to either other dogs or humans at Lake Nangara?
Ms Thrush?
Through you, Mayor, we'd have to investigate our databases to be able to provide an answer to that one. We'll take it on notice.
Thank you, Councillor Hugh
Yes,
Newen.
thank you, Mayor. As part of the city's analysis of social media that the Director was referring to earlier, is there a way that the city could verify the people making the comments, where they actually reside, whether they're residents of the city of Wanneroo, or did the analysis not go that far?
Ms Davis.
Through yourself, Mayor, thank you for the question. It is not possible for us to determine where we don't identify who the people are on social media. However, you will know in the report that we were able to identify those that resided within the city of Wanneroo and those that did not throughout the engagement process.
Mayor.
Councillor Hugh Newen.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Subject to my further discussion with administration, I foreshadow an amendment to the recommendation for next week. And I can very briefly say that the amendment that I'm foreshadowing is by way of an exemption, so that Lake Nangara could be exempted. It relates broadly to the issue that Councillor Moore was talking about, in the sense that in my ward, there is currently a huge problem of people using off-lead parks.
Councillor Nguyen, this is just an option for questions.
I
When you
understand
present
that.
the amendment, then you can
I
argue it
understand that.
next week at the
I
ordinary
understand
council
that. I
meeting.
will present my full arguments, but I'm just foreshadowing for council's benefit.
Thank you. Thank you. That's good. We know that. Who else wanted to ask a question? I'll go to Councillor Bedworth and then back to James. Oh, no, Councillor Bedworth, then Councillor Huntley, then Councillor Rowe. Councillor Bedworth.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of quick ones from me. Page 251 at the top, it states that it's difficult to quantify the number of these occurrences using the existing systems, as dog attacks on non-domesticated animals are not the responsibility of city officers. Does that mean we don't have data?
Ms Thrush.
Through you, Mayor, yes, that is correct.
Do you have another question, Councillor Bedworth?
Also, the reports throughout it has assertions about how dogs off lead can affect flora and fauna, etc., which all appears to be quite anecdotal and hearsay from what I'm reading. Do we have any evidence-based reports we can read to help us inform that decision, peer-reviewed, that sort of thing?
Ms Thrush.
Through you, Mayor, the evidence we have is anecdotal, and also, if you remember, we did have Tessa Esperon from Tessa's Reptiles who made a deputation at one of the previous presentations of this report to Council.
Councillor Bedworth.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one more. In the event that this recommendation is approved, would that mean we can expedite, or would we suggest that it would then provide an opportunity to expedite more dog beaches?
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor. I imagine that when we develop the dog exercising strategy, that all those things would be considered.
Councillor Huntley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Dogs in the future are going to have smaller gardens, no place to exercise, and lots of dogs in Australia seem to be put outside in gardens. These gardens can reach 40 degrees and in the winter can be 3 degrees. You can understand why these dogs get very frustrated. We have shocking problems with barking dogs when their owners go away.
Councillor Huntley, could you please ask your question?
Yes, I will ask the
Thank
question,
you.
Madam Mayor. But what would be the city's view then in looking at recreating the way that we build dog parks? The parks that we have at the moment are too small. Most people stand in them and let their dogs off a lead. That is not an exercise park. There's a few toys in there that most dogs don't even know what they are, let alone the owners able to train them on them. And so to look at the way we can provide a better standard of parks and actually have these parks placed in the reserves so people are still exercising their dogs on the outskirts of a reserve, protecting the wildlife, protecting the kids and allowing these dogs to move. We're going to have 600,000 people needing to be able to walk at least one dog. So you're talking a lot of dogs in the future. It's going to be absolutely ridiculous, or 600,000 if everybody
Councillor
has one
Huntley,
or two
we need
dogs.
the question, please.
So the question is, would the city be looking at a totally different standard? And if that's true, then should we not be passing this item at next
Councillor
week's
Huntley, the question...
ordinary council meeting?
The question directly you're debating, please. The question.
The question is the city willing to look at better standards for these dog parks and put them onto these nature reserves?
Ms Davis.
Through yourself, Mayor, and thank you for your question about dog exercise standards and dog exercise opportunities in reserves, and we'll consider that when we are developing the strategy in 26-27.
Thank you. I'm just going to go to Councillor Rowe, please.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll keep it brief. Two additional questions from myself, just because I'm trying to recollect what happened when we discussed this, whenever it was in July 2024. Was an amendment put forward to exempt Lake Nangara at the time, and that was lost? Is that my understanding? Because I believe it was. Not prohibiting the councillor from doing it again, but I'm trying to refresh the series of events that took place 18 months ago.
Ms Davis.
Through the Mayor, and thank you for your question. I do believe that is the recollection. However, for the purpose of the report, I will take that on notice and provide changes to the reports for you for OCM.
Councillor Rowe.
And the second question, Mayor, totally respect the CEO's comment before that he ultimately has to make a decision on the agenda and how many items to be presented before us. But the decision through the procedural motion mentions specifically a resolution of this council that it was to be brought by July 2025. My understanding is elected members were not notified thereafter in writing that the administration was non-compliant with the council resolution. Can the administration reflect on this case, and in future, if they're not meeting the timelines prescribed by a resolution of this council, that an explanation be forthcoming to elected members?
Thank you. Did you want to respond as the CEO?
Question, and the answer is yes.
Thank you. Councillor Berry and then Councillor Huntley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question. It's just for Ms Davis, and it's a question for clarification. We were just talking about, or Councillor Hugh Newham was talking about the Facebook comments, and you turned around and said you couldn't clarify who they're from, but then you went on to say you were able to clarify how many people were residents of the city of Wanneroo. Is that referring to the Facebook comments, or is that referring to the petition? Thank you.
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Councillor, and for that point of clarification, yes, in the formal consultation period on your say, that was where I was referring to, where we could actually identify residents versus outside of the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Huntley now.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So if we're not going to consider looking at the way we...
Councillor Huntley, please ask your question.
Okay.
Just ask the question,
2627 is the time that you're saying we're going to change or look at a framework for these dog exercise areas. What are we doing from now until then, other than revoking dogs on... Is this revoking dogs on lead or dogs off a lead?
Ms Davis or Ms Thrush?
Through you, Mayor. This is revoking dog exercise areas for those nature reserves. So a dog exercise area means that dogs can be exercised off lead. When that is revoked, it refers back to the Dog Act, which says that dogs must be on lead.
Thank you. Councillor Huntley.
So dogs will be on lead until 26 for 2 years, 26-27 for 2 years, before we look at a framework that looks at how we produce a dog exercise area. Is that correct?
Ms Davis or Ms Thrush?
Through you, Mayor, at these parks and reserves being considered, yes, that is correct. However, for the majority of the city of Wanneroo, dogs can be exercised off lead.
Thank you. Councillor Parker.
Thanks, Mayor. My question is DBCA. They are the responsible party for nature reserves?
Ms Rush?
Through you, Mayor, it depends on the nature reserve. For these nature reserves that we're looking at, they're under the management of the city of Wanneroo.
Do you have a question, Councillor Park?
Therefore, how, if we do not physically patrol as the city the nature reserves because we don't have the rangers available to do so, how would we get any information as to what was actually happening in these nature reserves if we did not rely on DBCA and the carers to give us the information.
Ms Thrush?
Through you, Mayor, that is exactly what we're relying on. We're relying on information provided by carers, by DBCA, etc.
Thank you. Councillor Parker?
Sorry, then just to follow up to that, I think it's really important to state that that is where the city administration has to get their information from, and therefore councillors need to adhere to it. Is that correct?
Ms Thrush or Ms Davis?
Through you, Mayor, the decisions that council make are their own decisions that they make based on the information provided to them.
Deputy Mayor Miles, you had your hand up.
Yes, sorry, I was listening intently. My question is, on page 269, you've got the map of just locally around the town centre. And obviously there's only 5 proposed locations on that map that are in the red. I'm assuming the beige colour for me is everywhere where you can still take a dog off lead. Is that correct?
Ms Thrush?
Through you, Mayor, yes, the red areas are the areas that are proposed to be dog on lead. The green areas, of which you can see there are a number, are the other areas which you can take dogs off lead.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Miles?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just finally, just to conclude for the report, possibly, Ms Davis, for the OCM, can we have how many there parks there are in total within the City of Wanneroo? How many are dogs on lead and how many dogs off lead parks that we have, including parks of, I think councillors know the size of parks in their own wards. And can I also ask that if you do it by map also, like you've got on here, maybe the planning department could get to a better map.
Thank you.
Don't use green.
Yes. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one additional question which has come up from other councillors' questions. And I just want to go back to what the manager had stated earlier on, that we had adequate range of resources to respond to residential complaints. I was just wanting to know, can we please get some information for the OCM report regarding the average response times residents face when reporting an issue to rangers? So whether that can be by category, I'm not sure how rangers organise versus high priority, low priority, category 1s, category A, B, C, not sure how it works. But if we could just get some response times, because I guess, and I know our rangers work very hard and I've been out and I've seen that work done, but I'm just wanting to know statistically, because that is not the feedback we're getting from residents at the moment. So I'm just wanting to make sure we have got some data that backs up that statement. We do have enough range of resources, because I think that does to some degree influence the decision of council whether this item passes or not, in regards to having adequate resourcing to deal with enforcement.
Thank you. Councillor Vin Nguyen.
I'm also interested in a few data as myself as well. Just in relation to the 20 parks that were reserves that we're looking at, do we know how many dog users are there that are sort of using those parks or reserves? So we don't know how many people are affected.
Ms Thrush.
Through you, Mayor, we don't have counts on the reserves to count the number of dogs and their owners using them, no.
Thank you. Councillor Vin Nguyen.
Okay, so what relevance and or weight do you give to the residents and non-residents who have put forward their view on this issue? Does that make sense? So, for example, you've got on page 200 152, you've got 1,100 signatures, of which 173 are residents. So if we look at dog owners or park users as a whole, they're all affected by this resolution. So do you give more weight to a resident's feedback or non-resident's feedback, or are they the same?
Ms Davis.
Through yourself, Mayor, great question. Thank you. It is outlined here just as the percentage, and we'll give that in numbers, but no weight has particularly been provided. It is a bit of a tricky conundrum as council needs to provide facilities for the current and future users and serve the needs of its community. However, parks are going to attract residents outside, and I understand that that would be a very difficult decision for you to make.
Thank you. Councillor Vin Nguyen.
Can I just have a point of order of clarification, Mayor?
Yes, Deputy Mayor Miles.
I think just to, Mayor, put things in a couple of contexts. The report that administration has presented has some detail in. It's up to councillors to decide what relevance each part of that report is. You can ask questions on it, I believe, but I think I would ask council and maybe yourself, if you might want to talk on it, that, you know, administration, they don't put any relevance, as the director has just said. The information's in there for information. It's up to us as individual councillors to say whether that information sways you one way or the other.
Thank you. Yes, I would agree with that. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, just one additional question from me as well, just following on from that. Does the city have any information on where these dog attacks primarily occur within the city? So are they nature reserves, neighbourhood parks, general footpaths and streets? I guess some more information around where some of these dog attacks are occurring, because that does make up a substantial part of the report in regards to where these issues are occurring. Because if they're not in nature parks, well, that's a statement in itself, but it would be good to have some clarity around that. Thank you, Mayor.
Ms Rush.
Can I please clarify, are you referring to dog attacks in general? Are you referring to dog attacks on wildlife?
Well, I think the report clarified that we don't capture wildlife, so it would be more dog attacks on humans or other dogs. Some more clarity around, not a breakdown per suburb or anything, but just in terms of high level, is it a nature reserve? Is it a neighbourhood park? Are there regional parks? Is it on general footpaths and streets? It would be good to know where these issues are actually occurring, because obviously, again, that carries weight on locational criteria, I guess, is what we're considering.
Ms Thrush.
Through you, Mayor, we'll provide that in the OCM report.
Thank you. Councillor Moore.
Thank you. I'm just following on from Deputy Mayor Miles. In the next report, are we able to, we've got a map of the areas that are off-lead and the parks, are we able to also have an indication of which areas are off-lead around playgrounds as well, please?
Thank you. Please be mindful, we're talking about nature reserves and we're not talking about lots of other areas, and that there's going to be a report brought about what we're doing with dogs in overarching later on, and all this information is actually more relevant to the report that's coming than it is to what we're talking about nature reserves tonight. So just please try and keep your focus on this is about the motion on notice for nature reserves and not about every other area as well. Councillor Vin Nguyen.
I just got a couple of questions, just in terms of enforcement. Have we, in the past, prosecuted anyone in relation to dog bites or something of that nature, or in relation to not having dog on lead in nature reserve?
Ms Thrush.
Through you, Mayor, yes, in the past we have undertaken a number of enforcement measures regarding dog attacks, dog off lead, etc.
Thank you. Councillor Van Nguyen.
Can you give us an idea of what the dog owner will be facing if, I guess in terms of ranges, in terms of fine or infringements or penalty?
Ms Thrush.
So for this one, it would be dogs being in a place and not on lead, I believe is a $100 infringement.
Thank you. Are there, Councillor Van Nguyen?
And I'm just thinking, is the city vicariously liable if it doesn't prosecute a certain individual where there's a victim to a dog attack?
Ms Davis? Ms Gold?
Thank you for the question. We'd have to look at each incident individually because it's also based on evidence as well and procedural fairness. So we would deal with each one separately.
Thank you. Another question?
Yeah, that doesn't seem to respond to my question. Is the city responsible if we change the current act or the regulation and we don't enforce it? Are we vicariously liable for that?
Ms Coles?
Thank you for the question. We'd have to look at the reasons behind why we're not enforcing it and then look at each case individually, because sometimes when we do want to prosecute, there's not enough evidence to prosecute. So essentially, we would have to look at each incident separately.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on this item? I think we've done it to death. Okay, we now go to item 410, Wanneroo Town Centre Advisory Group Terms of Reference. Any questions on this item? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, I have three questions, councillors. First one's on page 294, which I believe is the tracked changes. So I'm just scrolling. The clean version. Can administration clarify this is an error in the report? So the opening part in the purpose and role says the Wanneroo Advisory Group. Should that be the Wanneroo Town Centre Advisory Group?
Ms Davis.
Through the Mayor, that's correct.
And Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Can the admin explain why delegates on the group have a nominee? So I think in this case, the Mayor has a nominee. I don't think anyone had like a deputy or anything like that. So I'm not sure if this is a deviation from the standard template that we use. Is there any reason why a nominee's been included for anyone?
Ms Davis.
Through yourself, Mayor, other than nominees are generally there in the event that the Mayor is unable to make it, and she could or they could offer someone else to attend. There is no rhyme or reason behind it for this one particularly that I can recall.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Just last question. Clause 3.8 of the membership, it's said on there community representatives are to be approved by the appropriate director. Can we get some clarification on what director that will be? I think terms of reference should be clear on who is actually assessing candidates for these positions.
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for the question. We will update that to the Director of Community in Place.
Thank you, councillors. Any other questions on item 410? If there are no questions on item 410, we'll do item 411 and then we'll probably stop for a 5-minute break. Any questions on item 411, Festival Awards and Cultural Events Advisory Group Terms of Reference? Councillor Wright.
Sorry, it's the governance guru again. just one question on this one, page 301. Obviously, with the changes that Council approved at the Policy Review Committee to add the city nominations for the Walga Honour Awards, would it be appropriate for administration to amend the purpose and role by removing the word community so it aligns the group's focus, enables the group to focus on awards as a whole? So currently it reads, provide advice and guidance on city-led cultural events and should be awards at the City of Wanneroo, not community, now that we've added this part in.
Ms Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor. I just would also like to contribute to that discussion in that the Civic and Community Awards will now fall under separate policies. So the inclusion of 1.5 in this terms of reference is a direct response from the advisory group to include it. However, the Community Awards, it is the only award outside of the Community Awards. If we were to remove that word community, I just would err on the side of caution of confusion between awards that would be awarded under the civic events policy.
Thank you. Any other questions on item 411? If there are no other questions on item 411, I'm going to take the opportunity, seeing as it's 8 o'clock, could you be back here by no later than 8:05 to resume the meeting? Thank you. We're not quite on air yet, even though the bell's gone. I'll wait until we're on air. We're about to go to corporate strategy and performance with Ms Jennings. And we are now on air. Good evening, Ms Jennings. Thank you. And do you have any items you wish to speak to?
Thank you, Mayor. We've got 8 items this evening. I don't have any particular presentation, but I do have some guests with me, along with Katie Russell and Tian Kotzer and Paul Greer. So we're very happy to take questions on any of the items. Thank you.
Thank you. So we go to item 4.12, Financial Activity Report for the period ended the 31st of August 2025. Any questions on this item? If there are no questions on this item, we go to 4.13, Financial Activity Report for the period ended 30th of September 2025. Any questions on this item? If there are no questions on this item, I now go to item 4.14, 2024 to 25, Quarter 4 Corporate Report, Performance Report. Are there any questions on item 4.14? Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is just in relation to pages 356 and 357, in particular the reference to the project Montrose Park Club Rooms in Girraween. I know that elected members have been provided with updates, but there's been some delays in the delivery of this project, renewal of the tennis courts and the club room space. Perhaps through yourself, Mayor, to Mr Singh, is an update able to be provided if this project is nearing completion?
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the project is nearly complete. I think we should be having the final works done within the next 2 to 3 weeks. The final work, which was pending the connection of services, I believe the major works for that has been completed.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? Councillor Figg.
Thank you, Mayor. Just on page 365, where it has the Brazier Road Unionship upgrade services, I know that it says 72% work complete, and I'm just wanting some clarity around whether that is for the design specifically or for the entire project.
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. That is for the design development for that project.
Thank you. I have some questions. On page 370, it's got... where are we? Waste management. Waste to landfill tonnes that we didn't achieve in 2024-25, our target, but that is about tonnage. I was wondering if we could include what is the numbers per capita because our population has increased. Ms Jennings.
Thank you, Mayor. You also asked that question at the Audit and Risk Committee as well, and we did take it on board to put it into the next year's, because this is quarter 4 from last year. So thank you. Yes, we will be doing that.
Thank you. Are there, and I'm wondering if I've got another question here on the same one. Okay, we've got on page 371, percentage development applications processed within timeframe 60 and 90 days, and we haven't achieved our target this year. It was 90% and we're at 86%. This is a percentage, but really we all know that we're doing something like 600 approvals a month. It probably would be better to get a number comparison because I think our planning guys are actually pumping it out, and it's, even though it says not achieved there, I think they're actually achieving it. Would we be able to change it to numbers considering the workload they've got at the moment?
And through the Chair, through you, Mayor, these particular measures are from the Act, but we can certainly, we have actually in our performance reporting internally the numbers, so we can pass that on as well.
Thank you, because I think that would more better reflect the workload that our team has been successfully achieving. Thank you. Any other questions on this report, please, councillors? Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm referring to page 367 and it's the number of page views, your say pages for consult to collaborative engagements. Can somebody please explain how we're going to increase the percentage of the community engagements on the your say, or what strategies are being made to increase community participation, please? Thank you.
Ms Davis?
Through yourself, Mayor, could I please just get the page that you're referencing there?
367.
Continuing through the Mayor, as Ms Jennings has mentioned, this is the Q4 report, and so those targets have already been set. However, we are conducting an internal review of our community engagement processes, our policy and our framework, so we can pick something like that up for our future reference.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item, councillors? If there are no other questions on this item, we go to item 4.15, the Youth Development Service Review. Do we have any questions on this item? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I've just got 3 questions on this item. So the first one's on page 376. There was a statement in the report around the city's service cohort is now younger than the sector average. Is this now still the case with the new proposed option 3?
Through you, Mayor. In terms of the overall age groups, we'll be trying to attract the higher age groups as well as servicing the younger ones. So it will be very much based on the location and the needs of that particular area. But we do see that the target area of ages 11 to 22 will increase significantly.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. And I guess on page 376 and 383, both talk about, I guess, the cohort that I'm probably more concerned about, which option 3 doesn't address, which is the 18 to 25 range. And there was 2 statements in the report that showed consultation showed a strong demand for 15 to 24-year-olds, including work readiness, employability workshops, community events and leadership opportunities. And then later in the report talks around the age group continues psychological, social and emotional development and is marked by significant life transitions. So if council adopts option 3 within the report, what would the city currently be offering 21 to 24-year-olds?
Thank you.
Ms Russell.
Thank you through you, Mayor Aitken. We will be heavily targeting the employment readiness and youth leadership opportunities, particularly also through community consultation. There's a lot of opportunities through youth empowerment where we can attract that older age cohort to actually start inputting into the future of their community, which we do struggle to attract that age group at the moment. So having that place-based model allows us to actually start targeting those age groups a bit closer rather than trying to service everyone with the same type of service that we're offering currently.
Councillor Wright.
Sorry, just a supplementary to that. So would it be a fair assessment that our service cohort is not what's been recommended in the report, which I think was 9 to 22, it should still remain at the 9 to 24 range?
Mr.
Would that be correct?
Thank you for the question. Option 3, besides youth outreach, is targeting up to the age of 25 or up 24.
Thank you. Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. 2 questions from myself. The first relates to, this is something that came to light after the service review was undertaken. State government announced that 2 schools within the city of Wanneroo had been selected for the Connected Communities Partnerships, being a Clarkson Primary School and Girraween Senior High School, which could provide some of those opportunities for young people to be involved in community organisations. Noting that this report is coming to an end, is that something the administration is aware of and actively exploring collaboration opportunities?
Ms Russell.
Thank you, through you, Matt. We have been working with the Department of Education to explore that service model deeper. A lot of it is around offering wellbeing programs and other psychological support services for young people within the school. They are looking to expand that a little bit broader to offer a range of things, but it would work quite cohesively with the services that the City of Wanneroo does. Having that place-based approach, which is in option 3, allows us to say, we are going to do this type of service in this particular area because there's a need, but maybe in those other areas where those schools are potentially offering different types of services, we might say that we don't no longer need to be in that space, but we need to be in this space instead.
Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. And just the second question through yourself, it might be more directed to Mr Coetzee, is that this, I think, is the 3rd service unit that we've completed through the Service Review Working Group as part of the process for continual improvement. Are we considering reviewing the way in which these service reviews are undertaken? At the moment, it is one part of the business service reviewing another part of the business. What that means for quality assurance is a debatable topic. So are we considering any other models of how these service reviews are undertaken to provide quality assurance for future reviews as determined by Council?
Mr Keots.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, based on discussion with our director as well as with the CEO, there's a task with our service review group. I'm talking about the project group to look at different models and options to improve efficiency, as well as to look what other councils are doing, as well as to increase the number of service reviews that we can complete within a year. So the aim is to bring that to the Service Review Working Group early in the next calendar year, based on diary availability for the Service Review Working Group.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. Just one more question from me. Have our interactions with high schools been reviewed as part of this process? And in saying that, I've had expressions of interest from schools who want to do more with the city around things like tree planting, education, around wildlife and those types of things. So is that something that we can include as part of our future state, that we relook at how we interact with high schools? Because I think the only, other than the youth leadership program, the only other one that we do is obviously the graduation certificates and those types of things. So is there any more, I guess, scope within option 3 that we can look at offering, you know, other parts of the city to actually get to do some of that youth involvement? So things like our Parks and Gardens team.
Ms Russell.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So we do have a lot of existing programs where we work with the school, and internally administration talks to each other's business units to make sure that we try and avoid duplication. The Department of Education is a great passageway to be able to reach young people, particularly especially with the new social media laws and things like that coming in. There's further barriers to actually accessing young people. This recommended model very much focuses on having a youth program and engagement officer who is that lead person to work with the schools and connect administrations, different areas of business, to widen our scope in working with students, but also being able to work with the students to pull them out of the school grounds and into our services so that they can become more community citizens in delivering a lot of those initiatives without relying on the resources of schools as well.
Thank you, Councillor Wright.
Excuse me, Mayor. Just also add that we're starting some work on more traineeships and apprenticeships as well, so we'll get some further information to you about that kind of work as well.
Councillor Wright.
That's fantastic, and I have seen that come up on the LinkedIn pages quite a lot, that the city's pushing it. So sorry, I know it's questions. Just my review has obviously just missed knowing that we had started this work sometime before that. Has the city projected any, I guess, increased risks to the city in regards to how we deliver services? There's going to be this wave of demand that comes through, noting that young people will now be taken off devices and they'll be forced to go outside and do things what I'm sure most of us around the table did before. So are we expecting that there's going to be this wave of pressure on the City of Wanneroo to be able to handle more young people being out in public?
Ms Russell.
Thank you. We have been speaking with the Commissioner of Children and Young People in regards to the social media ban and the impact that this will actually have on young people and their desire to access information. Things like the outreach program, the youth centres, schools and other kind of services that reach young people is expected to have a peak. How that's going to be measured is difficult to know. One of the things that we did identify through the youth review quite early on was that our marketing really is targeted more at parents anyway, and we are relying on parents to be able to enable access to information for young people that way. One of the actions in the implementation plan is to actually look at our branding and our marketing and how we are communicating with young people, particularly knowing that the social media ban was going to come in place, and we're looking to commence that work early in 2026, so this current financial year.
Thank you. I've got possibly two questions. On page 408, under statutory or discretionary bottom line youth leadership, it talks about delivery of programs and partnerships and leadership skills and youth leadership empowerment, school year 5. I would like to know the cost of delivering the school leadership program to the year 5 students and what that annual cost is to the City of Wanneroo.
Through you, Madam Mayor, what I have here is the total cost for school leadership. It's not necessarily only for year 5. So I would suggest we take it off.
If you could divide it between the years as well, so that we're aware. Year 5, I don't think they do year 6, but the primary school one in particular, and separate the others so that we are aware of what those costings are. Thank you.
I've been advised this is actually for year 5 and 6, so that is a total cost of $55,000.
$55,000 a year?
Yes.
Okay, that was different to what I'd been told in the briefing note, but $55,000 a year for the school leadership program for those years.
I'll take it on notice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I've forgotten the second question. Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Wright.
Councillor Miles had his hand up.
Oh, did you have your hand up? Sorry.
Deputy
Mayor Miles, thank you. Deputy Mayor Miles.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm on this side now, so I'm going to balance up the questions. Thank you. My question to Ms Russell is, I guess along the same lines about doing the partnerships. There is a lot of, forgetting the sport aspect, because Council does a lot with sport, not necessarily in love with education, but where I think we aren't touching base is the cadet programs, whether it's the Army cadets, whether it's the Scouts, whether it's the SES. A lot of those no longer get funding through the state. They don't do that anymore. And I know through other funding models. So I'm just wondering whether we can sort of touch base with those groups, because that is the demographic and the age group that we want to get to help them transition through and to become good adults in our community. Unless you've already done so.
Ms Russell.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. As part of one of the action plans in the implementation plan is to develop a collaboration framework, and that is actually to do some analysis on the types of groups and organisations that we need to collaborate with, and that will potentially include expansion into looking at our overall community framework, the financial framework that we actually have linked to community grants, sponsorships, donations and potentially other streams of funding that we might need to consider. So overall, we do need to spend some time doing some full analysis on those opportunities that might present that don't currently sit in existing policies.
Thank you. Councillor Figg.
Thank you, Mayor. I will do one quick point of clarification, is that the state does fund those groups still, maybe not to as big an extent per person than they used to, but they definitely do still fund them. My question, though, is will the city consider creating a youth action or youth advisory committee, given the proposed increase in the service levels, if it is so passed by this council? Is that something that the city would consider looking to have our council decide on?
Ms Russell.
Thank you. The review does include the action plan does include an action that says that we need to review our youth leadership model. What we do know is that given the geographical size of the city, having one council has been fed back from young people that actually would be quite a challenge. So we actually are looking to try and do that more place-based. For example, the Doddat Cap-Up Library and Youth Innovation Hub, we're currently working with a youth leadership group to actually set an advisory council for that, an informal one, where they're developing the programs. At the moment, they're looking at doing the opening event and so forth. And then hopefully we extend those groups out to then start doing some engagement programs and responding to community consultation. So the format in which that might look like in the future will be determined through the action that's in here to review the leadership model. But at this stage, we're seeing the best outcomes for place-based short-term initiatives.
Any other questions? Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. Mine goes to the full-time staffing. So I did notice in the report that we have had no increase for the last 10 years. And I am concerned that the number of increase that is suggested in the recommendation, is that going to be enough? First, so that's the first question. And then perhaps to somebody else, with the knowledge that we are going to have such a large increase in our population, 27, 28, we're only going to get 1.6 full-time, and 28, 29, 1.5 full-time. We know that we have a very young population, and I'm just concerned that we are covering this sufficiently in order to get where we are trying to get in your option 3.
Ms Russell.
Thank you. Given the youth population and its continuous growth, the reason why we have things like the collaboration framework, the youth leadership programs, we're looking to be, and the localised approach to delivering youth services, it might be that in some areas we might not necessarily need to be in a youth centre, but we might need to be more in outreach, or they might prefer more program-based services. So we're looking to try and really spread our resources to be adapting to that particular area. The modelling that we've done on the resourcing is about ideally having those youth program officers working in those local areas to determine who's best placed to deliver those services. So we see that as a whole of industry response. And the prediction of the resourcing so far is based on what we know to date, based on the consultation we've done.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Wright.
Sorry, thank you, Mayor. I was contacted earlier today by Isaac from Youth Jam, who I know everyone knows around the table and is one of our major stakeholders for young people in the city of Wanneroo. And I guess their question was around youth centre opening times, and I know Isaac has been a fierce advocate for youth centres. So just in regards to the report, are we still continued to be opening youth centres 3 days a week for 3 hours a day? Is that still the case with the spoke and hub model?
Ms Russell.
Thank you. Through you, Matt. At this point in time, we're going to continue that, but we're actually going to run that all through the school holidays as well, rather than actually close the centres. The youth centres, though, we're hoping to activate the ones that we can in their current present form. We're hoping to activate with other agencies in there. So whilst we might only be delivering services at a certain point in time, it doesn't mean others can't. So we're currently testing that model up at Clarkson, and Youth Jam are currently working from there, along with other service providers that are activating those centres beyond those normal service hours. So our idea is to try and maximise the amount of occupancy.
Any more questions, councillors? If there are no more questions on this item, we now go to the warrant of payments 416. Do we have any questions on the warrant of payments? Do we have any questions on item 417, proposed closure of unconstructed road reserve portion of Tyrian Street and Canary Way, Eglinton? Do we have any questions on item 418, community facility opportunity, proposed allocation of a portion of Charnwood Park, 2 Rocks, Reserve 32840 to the Yanship Community Men's Shed Incorporated. Councillor Figg.
Actually, no, I guess I'll start with the first question. Under this, would this letter that would come from the Chief Executive Officer or their nominee for in-principle support for the men's shed, would that be done immediately should this item be approved?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, that is the intent. It would happen straight away.
Councillor Figg.
So to follow on from that, should the letter have some sort of result, or the decision from council and the letter combined have some sort of result in the men's shed securing a grant earlier than, say, during the election cycle? So just a bit of a preamble, the current timeline does line up quite well with the 2029 election, but should they be successful earlier for a grant that could result in them building it earlier, is there a chance the timeline could be moved ahead so that they could build it earlier?
Ms Russell.
Thank you for your question. The timeline at this stage is based on trying to reduce the number of costs that the men's shed will occur, particularly in terms of site works and concept design for a shed. And to do that, we would need to include that as part of the Charnwood Park Master Plan, and that needs to go through quite a few processes with consultation for community and also doing some detailed and civil design work prior to construction being able to happen. So that timeline has been done as tight as it possibly can be, with the aim to also reduce that cost for the men's shed.
Thank you. Any other questions? I have a question. It's probably a bit naughty, but have any other men's sheds commented about the funding the Yanship men's shed is getting at the moment and asked for any kind for kind?
Thank you for the question. Not directly. There are conversations with other men's sheds around their expansion of their footprint and what financial support the city can offer.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? If there are no other questions on this item, I now go to item 4.19, proposed lease to Yanship Community Garden Group Incorporated over a portion of Oldham Park Reserve 32938 Lagoon Drive, Yanship. Any questions on this item, councillors? If there are no questions on this item, we now go to the Chief Executive Office, Mr Parker, Advocacy and Economic Development. Are there any items you'd like to speak to, Mr Parker?
Not myself, Mayor. However, I will hand over to our Manager of Advocacy and Economic Development, who may want to do an introduction, and subsequently when we get to legal and governance, Ms Coles may wish to introduce.
Briefly, if I could introduce this one. It's regarding consideration of the funding part of the confidential attachment, but overall the ones in the table add up to about $12.4 million, so not a bad result so far. We're still negotiating on one other big project though.
Thank you, Mr Marmion. Any questions? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mayor. Just two questions from me on this item. First one's, or both of them are on page 565. Can the administration confirm by accepting these funds that existing projects, including council member requests, may be delayed or pushed back due to the accepting these?
Mr Marmion.
My understanding is that wouldn't be the case. I don't think, well, I'll probably defer to the Director just to check.
Mr Singh.
Thank you, Mayor. That's my understanding. I think majority of the projects, we have some work done on those projects, but receiving this funding probably will expedite those projects.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you. And just my last question, can the administration please include in the OCM report if these grants include delivery timeframes, and if so, do they align with the draft LTFP?
Mr Marmion.
Through you, Mayor, thank you for the question. I think the timeframes can't really be given to you next week because that'll be part of the ongoing negotiation. This is about accepting the funding with regard to getting that project with the particular agency.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
I suppose just supplementary to that, usually when we accept funding as a city, we accept the grant conditions that come with that. And we got, I don't want to say we got burnt by that with other projects, but we got too early. But do we have some indication that they're asking us to deliver it within the elected within the Member of Parliament's term of government? Is it within 3 years? Just a very high level summary based on the conversations you've had.
Mr Marmion.
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mayor. Yes, absolutely. All of these projects will definitely be delivered within the... so there's a time frame associated with those project management as well.
Thank you. Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Mayor. In accepting any of these projects, will it change any of the other items that we've currently got on the long-term financial plan and push any of the, will it change the schedule of the works that we've been looking at over the last few weeks, please?
Mr Marmion.
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mayor. My understanding is no, but I'll just check with the Director of Assets as well.
Mr Singh, have you got a response to that question?
Thank you, Mayor. As I said to the previous response, similarly, like the timelines, obviously still to be finalised with the funding agreements. Majority of these projects are known to us, and we have some work done on majority of those projects, prelim work, I would say. So that shouldn't impact the existing projects on LTFB.
Thank you. Councillor Figg.
I am looking at page 566, in particular the Alkimos Surf Lifesaving Club. So that's a project that is predicted to start a little later in the cycle, which has the members' understanding from what I've been advised. But when it comes to the actual funding amount, would this funding... Sorry, do we have any idea of when this particular piece of funding would be received?
Mr Marmion.
Thank you for the question. Through you, Mayor. All I know at this stage is that we've had confirmation with the agency that that funding is available, and that would have to be part of the next phase of negotiating the timeframes on that particular one. Yep.
Councillor Figg.
Thank you, Mayor. So following on from that, if this money comes to us, say, in the next 12 months, which I would think is a pretty realistic timeframe, probably less, when it comes to into our accounts at the city, any interest made on that particular grant amount, does that go back into general revenue, or does that stay with that funding amount to go towards the project itself?
Mr Marmion.
Thank you for the question. I don't have any idea what the answer to that question is, unfortunately.
Ms Jennings.
Ms Jennings.
Thank you, Mayor. When the funds come in, that'll be a council report too, and we'll know where we're actually placing the funds. So depending on that, for example, if it goes into reserve, that interest will stay there. Otherwise, it goes into general revenue. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Figg.
This might be a little bit of a cheeky question. Would it be a way to shield ourselves against project escalation or project cost escalations in future for particular projects to have any grants that might come in earlier to have their interest applied to that grant amount so that we're not necessarily having to look for an extra few $100,000? Perhaps it's the same thing effectively because it'll already be in our revenue, but yeah, would that be something that admin thinks could be possible?
Ms Jennings.
Thank you, Mayor. That's why we try and bring the funds into where they're actually going to be used from. So that's the general idea. So that's why we do a separate report to actually bring the funds into a place.
I have 3 questions that I'll be brief on. Can some additional information be provided for the report in 2 weeks' time, particularly just in relation to several projects which I'll now list? Shelvock Park, Kundula, Alexander Heights Park and Cabrini Park, Marangaroo. Can I just get that additional information if, subject to budget consideration, these projects would be able to be commenced in the next financial year? That's the first question, Mayor.
Mr CEO.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor, can you just repeat those parks, please? We've got those for the record.
Yeah, it is. So essentially the first 2, Shelvock Park and Alexander Heights Park, so the 2 on page 565 and the third one down on page 566, Cabrini Park, Marangaroo. My understanding, Mayor, to provide the preamble is that these projects were provided to local members on the basis that they would be shovel ready. So my question is to provide that additional information that we would be able to commence, not complete, but commence works in the following financial year. Member for Girraween secured funding for a mobile CCTV tower. My understanding anecdotally for a CCTV tower that the city can choose to allocate throughout the entire district. This would be the only item that we've accepted funding for where the member does not get to remain in the district, in her electorate. So I'd just like some clarification around why the city's made that decision, perhaps in the additional report if I could. Ms Meredith Hammett secured
Okay.
$100,000 for a mobile CCTV tower that I've heard anecdotally through the city's administration. They can allocate it throughout the entire district of the city of Wanneroo, even though the member who secured it has...
On that through our, probably not from the director, but unless you want to answer that, but my understanding is because they're mobile cameras, we need to be able to keep them mobile, but I'll defer to the director.
Ms Davis.
Through yourself, Mayor, thank you. That is correct. Yeah, we do have a community safety advisory group who also helps determine the priority spots where those towers will be moved to each quarter. We have 6, we have now additional 2. They are mobile and they go across the whole city.
Not on here is I was under the understanding that the member for Lansdale secured $120,000 for bus shelters in his electorate. Is the reason that the city's not accepting the funding that money will be directed to the PTA for the installation of bus shelters in his electorate?
Mr Marm.
The city will be then responsible for the maintenance of those bus shelters following that.
Any other questions on this item? Councillor Parker.
Just a quick clarification. Councillor Figg, one of his questions was the $3 million for the construction of the Alkmaar Surf Club. If it came in early, would it, and as it's been explained, it then goes into a reserve. So that reserve fund would read construction of new Alkmaar Surf Lifesaving Club, and any interest earned would go back into that particular reserve and then be used on the surf club.
Is that correct, Ms Jennings?
Is that correct, Ms Jennings?
Through the chair, we wouldn't name every reserve for each project, but we'd keep track of it. So if it went into a facilities reserve, sporting facilities or something like that, we would keep track of that $3 million. So is that what you're after? I'm just checking that's the kind of thing you're after.
That, but if the member will do that, would they be reasoning behind that? But I know if I was going to give money for a particular thing, I would probably want to go into a reserve that was reserved for that. I'm just thinking through it, but so my question was, it wouldn't go into that specific reserve, it would just go into reserves for forthcoming work. Cool, thank you.
Is there a question to that? You answered your own question? How cool is that? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. I suppose just a different question on this report, because everyone was asking around the actual amounts that we've received from the commitments. I guess my concern is around federal priorities. Can I just seek clarity from the administration that the advocacy projects is supposed to be the items of significance to our ratepayers in the district, or is it supposed to be a list that is somewhat achievable with other stakeholders and levels of government? Because
Mr Marmion.
Thank you for the question through you, Mayor. The reason why we've removed that particular project is we didn't get a lot of traction on that through the advocacy campaign. Now, these 8 interim advocacy priorities right now really just take us up for the next few months. We're intending to bring the full master list of all projects, including new ones that we will identify, plus others that Council will be invited to identify if possible, and redo the entire priority list and bring that back to a workshop at a Council forum, probably in April next year. So you'll get the opportunity to have a fully revised advocacy priority list, and our small projects list, like what we had for this these particular elections, which was quite successful. So that's our intention.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? If there are no other questions on the item, we now go to the 4.21 2025-26 Annual Delegated Authority Register Review. Do we have any questions on that item, councillors? Councillor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. Just on page 581, council members, committee members and candidates code of conduct, I'm trying to understand the removal of the Director of Corporate Strategy and Performance, or is the intent around this to change who fulfills that role in the organisation?
Ms Coles.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Rowe. So the sub-delegation on that one will now come to the General. So the sub-delegation on that one will now come to the General Council, which aligns to the change in the in-council services coming across to the Legal and Governance Service team.
Councillor Rowe.
Just for the absolute clarity, that should this be approved, the General Counsel will become the complaints officer. Is that correct?
Ms Coles.
Yes, that's correct.
I foreshadow an amendment.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mayor. And I suppose just adding on from the councillor's question, has there been any, I guess, further research that's been undertaken? Not saying it happens at Wanneroo, but I have heard stories around in the sector around conflicts of interest, knowing that General Counsel and Council Support actually sit under the CEO at Wanneroo in terms of our current structure. But I was just wanting to know, because knowing if there is a dispute that is caused, then that needs to be escalated to the CEO, which we are the employers of the CEO. So I'm just mindful that, not saying it happens here, but there are instances where CEOs may take influence over that, councillors, vice versa, may take influence over that, because we don't have a committee structure here with complaints. So I'm just mindful that, and from my understanding, the reason why it sat with a different director was it was a check and balance separate from the office of CEO. So I'm just wanting to know, has people weaponised this process?
Mr CEO.
So the delegation is from council to me, and then I can sub-delegate that authority should I choose to. Now, if there is ever a conflict of interest in dealing with that particular issue, they're always the things that are taken into consideration. And it would be as simple if the General Counsel was conflicted, which could happen, then I can expand that list of sub-delegates as I need to ensure that we can deal with that issue in an open and transparent way. So I think we'll just provide some more detail in the report, but I think what the Deputy Mayor is looking at is the sub-delegation from the CEO to the staff, not the delegation from Council to the CEO. So we'll tidy that up in the report and make sure it's very clear.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? If there are no questions on this item, we now go to item 4.
Sorry, Mayor, just one question.
Yes.
Just in regards to the repealed delegations on the register, is there any opportunity that we can remove them or keep them as a separate section just so it's easy to read? Because as time goes on, there's a lot of blackouts and it's hard to say what is. It's almost becoming like a track change document. Can we clear it up, do a bit of housekeeping so it is easy to read?
Ms Coles.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Wright. We certainly can. We can create an appendix at the back. We just have to maintain the numbers because they're referenced in historical documents.
Is that all the questions for item 421? If there are no more questions for item 421, we now go to item 422, review of council members' fees, allowances, reimbursements and benefits policy. Do we have any questions on that item?
Of clarity, because councillors would remember when this was debated in the chamber last time, it was confusing and the image that we gave out to the general public. Interpretation of the SAT determination now changed after seeking and receiving external legal advice.
Ms Coles.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Rowe. So we have received external legal advice that indicates that the Salaries and Allowances Tribunal note to the determination can be interpreted both ways. It's quite ambiguous. Then we've done a peer review, and other local governments have gone the other way in relation to the ICT allowance.
Thank you. And Councillor Rowe.
Yeah, just the second one, Mayor. Does the administration concede and acknowledge that subscription-based services, so our right to use the hub in the previous report to council?
Ms Coles.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Rowe. Yes, that's correct. We have reviewed the situation in relation to subscriptions and confirmed that the ICT allowance under the Salaries and Allowances Tribunal only relates to hardware, not the subscriptions required for the programmes that you need for your role as a councillor.
Any other questions on this item, councillors? If there are no other questions, we now go to motions on notice, item 5. We don't have any write-ups in our agenda, but we have a motion on notice from Councillor Bedworth about advocacy to reducing wildlife road trauma and protecting breeding species across Western Australia. Councillor Rowe has a publication 132 kilovolt power line, and I have another motion on notice which is about Hartman Drive, Lenore Road, and that will come to the next meeting. Did you have anything you wanted to say, Councillor Hugh Newen?
Thank you, Mayor. As I indicated to the CEO, I foreshadow a...
Thank you. If there are no more motion on notice, item 6, late reports, we don't have any.
Sorry, the General Counsel's going to talk to her later.
Oh, are you going to talk to the late reports, Ms Coles? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So we will have a late report to be presented to the ordinary council meeting following the presentation of the report to the FACE Advisory Committee on the 18th of November. So that report will come through on the 25th of November because we're required to advise Aspire, the award winners, by the 28th of November.
Okay, so that's the Australia Day Awards. Okay, thank you. Item 7, confidential. We now need to go behind closed doors for the following sorry, I didn't see it. Councillor Figg, do you want to ask to item 7.2? Oh, you've got a question on Councillor Berry.
When we go back.
So we now go to, we're about to close the meeting, and I've been asked by my fellow councillor to acknowledge today is Remembrance Day. I'll not only acknowledge Remembrance Day, I'll acknowledge the members of the City of Wanneroo who died at Remembrance Day. So on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, we join millions of Australians this morning in solemn remembrance. We remember those who served, those who fell, and those who returned forever changed. We remember their courage, their determination, and the enduring spirit of mateship that defines our national character. World War I saw over 400,000 Australians enlist, a staggering contribution from a young nation of fewer than 5 million. Among them was my children's great-grandfather who fought on the Western Front. He was actually sent to the front, reminder of the personal sacrifices made by ordinary Australians in extraordinary circumstances. 6,000 were wounded or taken prisoner. These numbers are sobering, but behind each one is a name, a family. 100 people then was deeply affected by the war. 23 men from Wanneroo enlisted in the First World War. 9 never came home. We remember Percy John Ainger, who enlisted at just 17, Herbert George and James Dunn, whose shared sacrifice is etched into our local history. We remember William Cockman, son of Wanneroo pioneers, died in France at just 22, and Ernst John Dudley White, whose parents were the first caretakers of Yanchep Caves and our families and our hearts. And we remember the thousands more who have served in wars, recognise the volunteers of the Wanneroo RSL sub-branch, the Queen's Rock sub-branch, service and sacrifice of all who have worn our nation's uniform. Let's together honour the memories of those who We are forever grateful, lest we forget. The next ordinary council meeting has been scheduled for 6 p.m. on the 25th of November 2025 to be held at the Council Chamber, Civic Centre, 23 Dundebar Road, Wanneroo. And I declare the meeting closed at 21:11. Thank you, councillors.